Coming to you. Let's see. I think we're live. We are live. Okay, good. Coming to you from the jungle of Florida. I hope everybody's doing well. And then also from the jungle of Texas, we got the Texas boys. Guys, we're looking at your website right now. It says the farm shop. You've got, I'm looking at it. Okay, food forest in a box, simple homemaker, the merch shop, the honey shop, the coffee shop, the candle shop, the mushroom shop, the tea shop, Buddy's Leatherworks. Dang. Y'all are busy.
Yes, we are.
I wanted to bring you on because number one, I'm thinking about selling chocolate that I make, which I told you about.
Awesome.
But
great idea.
I know, and I make it with honey because a lot of people don't want sugar these days. People are starting to realize the effects of sugar on the gut and microbiome and the kids, for instance. So then I was talking to my dad. He said, you should bring somebody on who's got a cottage industry. And I'm like, I know somebody who's got like 10 cottage industries, and it was you. And as I was looking into cottage industries now, there was all this stuff online about the effects of COVID and regulation and whatnot in the era of I don't know what you would call this era, but it would be, I think some people are concerned that like doing your own business and making your own food and whatnot is going to be kind of the next on the government hit list. But the stuff I was reading, it seemed that some states were lightening up on regulation. So let's just start with, what have you guys noticed? Any big changes in trying to manage your own business and have a local economy of goods?
We haven't been negatively affected by that, and I think the supply chain issues that we've all experienced over the last 3 years are encouraging people to become to be the supply chain and to fill in these gaps.
And it's more profitable now because you got, a dozen eggs costs $9+ a dozen, and now it's like, wow, it's totally feasible to go get some chickens, raise some chickens, and get some eggs from them. And that goes for everything.
And that was something that which I didn't predict, but many people predicted because of the supply chain issues, is that even regenerative farming and regenerative agriculture, now that these hard to find items, as the price is driven up, it makes it a more profitable venture to insert yourself into. And it's, so there's an enormous amount of potential here. There's, and there, and you just kind of have, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and you kind of in a real way have to just throw caution to the wind. Well, what if, you have to throw the what ifs out. You got to go for it. You dive in head first, and you try
Hopefully
fail
you
and
don't
adjust.
break your neck doing it.
Yeah, that's true.
Carlos is asking, where is the donate button?
The donate button. Okay. So there's a whole thing that kind of happened, and 2 pages on the website got taken off, and that was the native video section got fully deleted somehow, just vaporized, and then the donate button got vaporized. So we need
just a glitch.
Yeah, we just need to add that back on. So,
Okay.
Yep,
okay.
so that's where that
So
went.
let me show a new website here, and bear with me, everybody, because I'm working on my laptop here, which is a little different than my home studio. This is an article I saw in the Modern Farmer, The Rise of Cottage Food Production. State legislatures are loosening restrictions on selling products made in home kitchens. And their argument is, well, I'll just read this paragraph here. Since the start of 2021, roughly a dozen states have either eased or eliminated safety restrictions on the sale of food products made in home kitchens known as cottage foods. The new rules vary by state, both in how they came about and just how far they go in prioritizing individual rights over public health. But taken together, they represent a major expansion of who can sell what and where, be it from their homes or ranches, at the local farmers market, or even over the internet. One thing I thought that was interesting about this is when they say that they are prioritizing individual rights over public health, it makes it sound like public health is at risk with allowing you to have a cottage food industry. What do you think about that dichotomy? Because I think it's kind of false.
Well, I think it's a false dichotomy. I also think that it's interesting. They're trying to take some unmitigated good news and make you paranoid about it, which is kind of interesting. Hey, we'll take all the good news we can get right now. And I think there's a lot of encouraging things in this article. And it does appear, I know especially, you know, the state you're in presently in Florida, they've expanded substantially. Previously, you were allowed to sell gross of $50,000 a year, and they've expanded that to $250,000
That's awesome.
of
Yeah.
homemade
That's
product. I mean,
incredible.
you can make a legit
Living.
net income off
That's
of
yeah.
250 grand.
Man.
You know, if you have at least a 50 or 100% markup, you're making decent
Bank.
bucks, and
Yeah.
you know, and you don't have to worry about the czars coming in to check on you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take that. If I can make my chocolate a $250,000 a year industry, I'll take it.
Yeah, you'd be all right. I'd be okay.
Oh, man.
So, okay, so what is the hardest part about having a cottage industry?
The hardest part, let's see. We're in our studio, and that's one of the biggest reasons what happened was it went from like doing it on our kitchen table to we're like, whoa, we have way too many orders to pack, and then we just went ahead and converted our garage into the packing facility kind of place. The hardest part of our whole entire job, I would say, is coordinating everything and making sure people get their products in time, that they're not waiting a month or so, and people get mad or whatever. Making sure we get this way more now is, you know, people are goofy. They'll order from you, and, you know, they've only ordered like 4 days ago, and they're like, I want my money all back. I want my money back. And we're like, but we already ordered the product, and they're, you know, and
I would say the hardest is trying to compete with Amazon in the sense that when people
true.
order, they expect it to be shipped like the same day or the next day. Even though, you know, we say over and over again on our website, this is a small
couple weeks,
home-based family business, and this is going to take us a while, especially because what we like to do, what we have to do with our CBD and lion's mane, that is all roasted and infused here locally, and it's done fresh. So we actually we don't keep that in stock. So we order it when it's ordered from us.
That's the same thing with our coffee line too.
Yeah, it's same thing with our coffees. We want that to be as fresh as possible. So that requires a turnaround time that is, you know, maybe at least a week.
Yeah.
Just by the time we order it, then we pick it up, and then we package it up. And
Normally
ship it
with the CBD coffee and the lion's mane, that's our fastest turnaround, because as soon as the order comes in, like within an hour or so, we'll see it come in, and we'll go ahead and place the order. And then normally that day, it's already done, and then we have it in, and we're able to ship it out the next day.
Yeah.
Normally. So
it's very fresh, but the biggest challenge is just breaking the Amazon expectation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear from people a lot that they want a certain world, but aren't necessarily willing to inconvenience themselves for that particular vision.
Yeah, exactly.
And you see it in like independent media, like with these new platforms that are coming up, for instance. People are like, yeah, but this is the annoying feature, and that's the annoying feature. And we're like, yeah, well, you're right. It is more annoying than YouTube. But in order to make it less annoying, we have to, you know, put our money where our mouth is at some point, and go in the direction. And just inconvenience. Right. I mean, I'm running 4 live streams right now with a 2.5-year-old literally like playing 10 feet from the laptop.
That's great.
Because I mean, it's not perfect, but at some point, you know, if you got to invest somewhere, and then I guess you could just wait until it's there. But I don't know.
But once again,
you can't complain. That's the way I look at it. Stop complaining, right?
Yeah, and if you're waiting, you're missing out on the opportunity. You know what I mean? And so you're going to be a late adopter. And we all know that earlier adopters win.
Yep.
They stake their claim, and they have their foothold. So if you want to wait till it's perfect, it might never be perfect.
Yep.
You know, you might be waiting a long time. And I think that's a great point in the cottage industry. And what should I do? And should I dive in head first? Just do it. Look, the worst thing that happens is you fail. But the beauty of a cottage industry and operating out of your home. Okay, so like, for example, when we realized that we were selling more honey than we could personally produce, we said, well, we got to find a local guy. And and the beauty of honey is that it doesn't go bad. It would, there's a very good case that it may never go bad. Like, they found honey that's like thousands of years old. So we made a financial decision. We're going to invest in a very large, we invested many thousands of dollars into honey.
Yeah.
And when you think about the investment of that is like, okay, well, what if this doesn't work? What if it doesn't
poop hits
sell?
the fan, YouTube kicks you off, and like you lose all sales. At least you have several $1,000s worth of
this
honey.
Product that's never going to go bad that we use on a regular basis. So there might be a short-term financial hit, but long-term, we still have this awesome product that we're going to use anyway.
Hey, speaking of awesome products, I got to talk about my wine real fast.
Sure.
Now, I will say my parents do make their own wine. So I do feel a little torn here, I guess, talking about Allison Wine Promo, because I should be selling Allison's parents' wine promo. But
yeah, for real.
Good point.
Don't forget, everybody, actually, I will say this. The wines that are in the Allison Wine Promo selection are from very small, remote operations, family operations in Argentina.
That's
so
cool.
I guess you could call them sort of
Sure.
cottage wine industry. You can't get them at the grocery store, and they're all like hand harvested and natural fermentation and like 200-year-old family operation farm. So they do come with a story. They are kind of the sort of wine cottage industry, I guess. They're just not my parents or mine. But I will let you know when my chocolate comes out, because I think they would pair very well with my coconut oil chocolate. 50% off the wine itself, 50% off shipping. Like I said, the grapes work very hard under the sun. Some of these are from almost 9,000 feet. And it's a great way to support my work. You're already a wine drinker, go get some AllisonWinePromo.com and bring it over to that person that you canceled online 2 years ago. Apologize and tell them this will make it all better. So thank you to Allison Wine Promo, Bonner Wines. Thanks for my sponsor. Okay, so let's go back to the cottage industry discussion and regulation. What would make it easier, in your opinion, from the regulation standpoint, to have a cottage industry? Not just because you mentioned from the consumer standpoint, one thing that would make it significantly easier is if people just support you and be inconvenienced a little bit to move it in the direction that might make it less inconvenient at some point. But from the government's perspective, how do things get easier from your opinion?
Well, I think from the government's perspective, the way everything gets easier is at some point in time in the United States of America, we are going to have to face the cold hard facts that we need less government, less intervention, less regulation. I think what we're experiencing more daily, i.e. East Palestine, is that all of this regulation, all of this oversight, one is just a boondoggle. It's just a money extraction. And two, if anything, it exacerbates the real issues and the real problems. And as a economy, we have to go back to more of a buyer beware and, know, an informed consent, which is what this article that you shared talks about, is that as long as you're explaining that, these items aren't being processed in some type of FDA facility or whatever, I believe, as a society, we need to really push for less government, less intervention, less regulation, because the regulation, all the regulation does is hurt the little guy. The big guys do whatever they want. They pay to play. They pay their penalties. They pay their billion-dollar penalties, right? And that's all part of their tax for the capos and the Bloods and the Crips. They pay their penalties, and they keep doing. The beat goes on.
So my dad and I were just talking about this because the farmer he buys his raw goat's milk and kefir from was talking about how she was hoping, I think, there would be more regulation because they feel like she's saying, like, then, all these people that are just have these fly by night, dirty operations will be out, because I think the raw milk people get a little nervous that they have a bad name out there or something, and they want it to be regulated so they'll feel more like professional. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not
And
all of them, but some of them, you know?
And so that's another great point and a great story. You know, there was all this Amos Miller backlash, right?
Yeah.
And you had all of these hand milkers and whatnot, right? And they were all like, yeah, well, he's not doing it right. And this person got listeria and all this stuff. And come to find out, that was fabricated out of whole cloth. That was a total myth. It was a legal fabrication. It didn't even exist. And I believe that if you investigate more of these listeria and all this stuff, I mean, we had our own A2A2 dairy cow that Matt milked every day when he was like, that was like, how old were you? Like 8 or 9, right?
No, I was 12.
Oh, okay,
I
I'm
was
sorry.
about 12.
I'm sorry, Matt. You were 12. Yeah, so Matt milked this thing every day. And, you know, and when you're living it, and now we were the only one drinking it. We weren't making any products out of it for anybody else. But from this sanitized synthetic process plastic wrap world we live in, it was like very scary and dirty and like, oh no, there's some dirt on the stainless steel bucket and whatnot. And the real reality when it comes to gut biome and real health and natural immunity and all this stuff is we, in a very real way, we need a more real, i.e. dirty world where, you know, if we weren't all snowflakes and we weren't all hand sanitized up, it would create for a much healthier environment that may require a little more dirt and a little more germs. And I know that scares people.
Yeah, and when you're milking the cow, you know, it's hard to keep it clean, you know, because you still have to strain it afterwards, even though you wipe her udder down and everything and make sure it's all clean so not as much dirt gets in there, but still hair and, you know, little bit of dust gets in there and you still have to strain it out. And, you know, it's not going to be this. And we didn't pasteurize it or anything. We drank it raw and we didn't die. And it was incredible.
You know, I put raw eggs in my coffee every day, and everybody's like, "Ah!" And now there are raw eggs.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
not.
I wouldn't put store-bought eggs.
But I mean, a lot of the spooky dooky about food is totally fabricated by big ag.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's almost like confession through projection, because I would say a lot of the big ag food I probably wouldn't eat raw. You know, I wouldn't go to a conventional dairy and just, you know, drink that milk raw. I don't know. I asked this doctor once who asked me about, well, where do you get your raw milk? Your friend's cow? And I was like, well, no, not that I have any problem with that. I got it at the grocery store, but she was like, the grocery store? She couldn't believe that they sell raw milk at the grocery store. But I asked her if she'd ever been to a dairy, because, you know, I've been to a lot of big dairies. And I mean, I'm sorry, I hate to say it. I have friends who, you know, run big dairies, but it's like, there's a reason that we pasteurize that milk. It just is.
Yeah,
it is.
And so, you know, anyway, the other thing too, we were just talking about is, there was just a plant-based formula recall. I don't know if you saw that for, I don't remember what it was, E. coli or something. It wasn't even real dairy, and they recalled it. And then remember that huge formula recall from one of the main formula manufacturers that got recalled? That's all crap formula for the most part. If you look at the formula at doctor's offices, the first like 5 ingredients is sugar and oil from like seeds. And it doesn't even get to milk until like number 6. But that's what they tell you that they want you to give your kid. Anyway, and then we wonder why kids have all the problems they do. Okay, question over on Locals. And don't forget, if you're watching somewhere else, AllisonMurrow.locals.com. You can be on my editorial board for $5 a month, putting questions ahead of time for interviews. There was a question if you make kombucha. Do you make kombucha?
We used to make kombucha.
Yeah, we used to drink a lot of kombucha, but, you know, we got away from refined sugar, and we were feeding our SCOBY. We weren't feeding it honey. We were feeding it like more refined sugar, and we just got away from sugar. So that's the only reason we stopped.
But you can feed it honey, though.
You can feed
and
it
we
honey.
do have lots of honey now.
It's a little more complicated.
Okay.
The SCOBY's a little more touchy if you go the honey route. But you can feed a kombucha SCOBY honey.
We really liked, you know, kombucha.
I
like
still love
it
a lot.
Yeah, me too. This is true. Cows should not be eating grains. They consume 30% of our grains. Cows eat grasses. Let them eat what they're supposed to. And this brings me to a comment in Joel Salatin's book, Everything I Want to Do is Illegal, is like we come up with these regulations because of like worst case scenario in a lot of ways, like bad practices. And then the little person who doesn't even engage in those practices gets regulated the same way. I've noticed medicine's very similar. Like when you go see the doctor, they tell you what they think you should do based on what the worst possible case scenario is. Like if you walked in and you were 450 pounds, you had these symptoms, you're 450 pounds, you got some kind of breathing disorder, you also have diabetes, and they're like, this is what you should do. And I'm like, but I'm 125 pounds, I eat local food. Like, are you sure I should go on that medicine? I mean, is there anything other option out there? But that's often what it is. Yeah. Like
And
when I had, go ahead.
The other real important thing that guys like Joel Soughton and White Oak Pastures, Will Harris, these men are shattering all of these myths as far as like how food needs to be processed and how food needs to be raised. They're shattering literally the foundational infrastructure of all these FDA concepts, which is really important that we have long-term test groups that we can point to and say, hey, look how these guys are doing it. Not only that, these guys are doing it and they're profitable and they're employing,
so many
people. And so these are models that are repeatable and duplicatable, and they're shattering all of these myths of big ag and big pharma and antibiotics and all of these different things that have kind of been forced to accept as being true. They just clearly are not true.
And I also think too is there's been a big uptick in people buying locally and buying from mom and pops again because, the more and more crazier the world's getting and we're trusting the government less and less every day. I see that, in general, we just can't trust you. We can't trust your labeling. We can't trust the USDA anymore. So we're falling back to the way that we used to do it. We used to, back in the day, that's what you did. You would go buy from your little local mom and pop grocery store and things like that.
And what we're seeing is they don't care. Like the FDA doesn't care. The EPA doesn't care. Look at the way that they've neglected and ignored East Palestine. And who knows what's
Did
actually...
you see they put it on pause?
Yeah.
The whole cleanup.
Who even knows what's going on there? And they... Man, we're getting an attack of the flies here.
Lord of the Flies.
But, and all that does is make the public trust them less and less and less. And it really just becomes like a byword. Well, it's the government and that's what they do. They just waste money and they'll send the money to the Ukraine. So whatever. It's just like crazy.
Do you notice that the sun just keeps coming out and like I just turned completely white?
You got washed out.
You got white.
It happened.
Yeah, the
reporting from the pearly gates, everybody. I was, I've been trying so hard to find somebody in that area in East Palestine to talk about what's going on, and it has been incredibly difficult.
Really?
Even like the reporters that I've reached, the independent folks who are out there don't write me back. So I don't know what's going on. I'm working on a couple other leads, but I really have been hesitant to just like, because this is my background. Environmental reporting is what I did,
right?
And most people know that one of the reasons why I quit the business was because I didn't feel like I had the time and resources to really explore what was truly going on. And environmental issues are very complex and they would always get like boiled down politically and whatnot. And so I've been hesitant to like just jump into it, other than I guess I could do that video saying like, hey, it's very hard to know behind the scenes, like what's going on unless you're actually there, because this stuff turns into like a total political mess. I mean, there's I really feel like there are very few areas like, it becomes a religion, really. There are very few areas of reporting that are as political as environmental reporting. And it's funny, when I first got into it, I had just done a series on religion in Seattle, and the guy who did the environmental reporting was quitting, and I was taking his position. And I said, "Oh, Gary, I'm so excited to finally get out of controversial reporting on religion and do something like the environment, which everybody can just agree on." And he was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." Okay.
Right.
So let me go over real fast to another question for you guys from locals. Let me just scroll down here. Okay. Hello, Texas boys. Congratulations to 7 million views. 2 questions, if I may. Suppose the cottage industry does indeed get booned from new legislation. What would you actual producers see as major stopping points for any newly sprouting operations? Okay, you're still there. Good. I was like, what?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because I was a general contractor, and as my business really kind of exploded, and there was always there's what I call this tipping point, right? And this is what you see companies now where, okay, so if you're doing a million and a half, do you want to hire more employees because there's challenges with that? And do you want to go to 2.5 million? And if you do, you're going to have a certain amount of operating expense. So if you're at 1.5 million and you need to generate 2.5 million, you're going to have to incur an additional $500,000 worth of expense. So is that expense worth it?
Yeah.
And to me, I always wanted to say, hey, let's find our sweet spot.
Yeah.
The answer isn't more. How much money do you need? Well, just a little bit more. But the answer is lifestyle, right? What amount would give us the freedom and the flexibility to have the lifestyle that we desire? I mean, that's the purpose of, and the purpose of cottage industry is lifestyle, right? The reason that we want to be able to have the freedom to make this stuff and work within our homestead or at home is flexibility. So I believe that that's a great question in the sense of what is your stopping point is what's going to, as you have more and more growth, how far is to go to that next step is going to cramp the lifestyle that you're trying
How
to.
far do you want to go with it?
Right. What stops us is where it starts to affect our lifestyle again.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're muted, Allison.
Yeah, you're muted. Uh-oh.
Hey, Allison, you're muted.
I'm like, I see her lips.
How's that?
moving
I had
now.
to
There you
scream
are.
at my
There we go.
daughter to make sure she didn't run over to the ocean. So I didn't think everyone wanted to hear that. I was saying that's a good point, that cottage industry journalism is kind of what those of us in like independent media are doing. And you have kind of the same dilemma. It's not just lifestyle though. It's like the more money you make and the more advertisers you get and all that stuff, the more connected you are, the more compromised you can be,
Yep, exactly.
So,
yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, there was a
okay.
little pool company in Florida, and that's what they did. They set it up where they only did 100 pools. So when they had like 100 pools to reline or whatever, and they would make $500,000 a year, and it was a little mom and pop deal.
That was their cutoff.
And that was it. 100 pools.
Because they
done.
didn't want to destroy their lifestyle chasing money.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I think that's a great question.
Yeah.
Okay, second, so chaga, am I saying that right?
Yep.
Favorite immunity boost in this part of the world being used in your mushroom soup goods. In case you grow it yourself, what causes problems the most?
So we source it. There is a local lady that teaches on mushrooms that we're going to get plugged into, but right now we're sourcing all that stuff. So I don't have a lot of experience as far as, we do have a greenhouse, which is why we're going to get into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're super pumped about our greenhouse. We'll probably build another greenhouse just because it's been such a force multiplier and a game changer. But right now we're not growing any of our own mushrooms or anything.
Can you explain to PH Joy what A2A2 dairy means?
Oh boy.
So A2A2 is a genetic precursor. And what they've found is cows with that gene precursor, folks that are lactose intolerant are not sensitive to A2A2.
Yeah, and so here's the thing. So with A2A2 milk, the beautiful thing is that your body can process it within 30 minutes. Normal A1, or even A1, A2 milk, which is normally found at your normal grocery stores, though the A1 milk, it takes your body up to like 4 to 8 hours or 24 hours to process it down into an acid. And we personally, as a family, made a decision, and we're actually dairy free. Not like 100%. Like if we want to treat ourselves or whatever, we're not going to be like super strict with it. But in the house, we don't have dairy and things like that, because we've seen, like, even with our skin and everything, as like young teenagers and young adults, we've seen incredible. Our skin has cleared up so much from taking out the sugar and going gluten-free, and then also cutting back on dairy big time, not having loads of processed butter and cream and ice creams and stuff like that all the time. And
this speaks
yeah.
to big ag. These are all food allergies. So
Yep.
basically what we're doing is eliminating food allergies.
Yep.
Or mitigating them.
Okay.
So.
Let's see here. Got another question. Trying to read with the sun. What do they think is driving the relaxing of these regulations? Increase in public support, lack of production and supply chain issues, the opportunity for the government to collect or impose more taxes on these products?
I would say all of the above. I would say that kind of nails it. You know, we one of the, you know, we had to get kind of up to speed. Thankfully, there's all these different boutique, like for example, Tax Jar is the company we use to process all the taxes. You know, it's very annoying because if we sell our products, we're in Texas and we sell our products to Texans, like there could be like 6 different sales taxes on that.
10 cents to go
and
goes
the
to this little town
the
and this
beauty
little
of
county.
that is thankfully there's automation to this, which once again makes this cottage industry more viable and possible.
Exactly.
And it's generating more tax dollars. So there you go.
I know it couldn't possibly be because there was like a benevolent, like a truly benevolent.
I promise you
that. Okay. Some folks sell food items marked for pets, animals only, which is how in Florida you buy raw milk to avoid the cost, hassle, and mandates of government. So anyone buying knows you can eat at your own risk if you eat it.
Exactly.
Is that angle an option for your work? And is that an option for selling via mail across state lines, given the feds can inject themselves in interstate commerce? No
so that's
pun
what we
intended.
do with our ground beef is we sell it as pet food. And we do that with our community and stuff like that. And we're like, we're selling this to you for pet food.
Right.
And we write it all out, all legally or whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, if
we don't sell it online.
Yeah, no. Yeah. And if you eat it, you know, you're at your own risk. You know, if you develop some weird, funky system, you know, that's on you. But
yeah, that's their personal business if they do that or not.
Exactly.
I think they feed it all to their pets myself. But,
personally.
You know, there's a possibility.
Yeah,
that
there's a
they might
possibility
do that.
that they might eat it. So anyway, but yeah, that's kind of what we do with our stuff.
I actually had a naturopath friend who ate raw meat. Like it was actually it was actually for pet food, but he still ate it.
No way.
Because he's raw meat.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Okay, what was the other thing I was going to ask you? Oh, okay, on that line of like litigious nature of the United States, do you ever get concerned somebody says your food or whatever made me sick and tries to sue you? Do you have insurance for your business for that reason? Just in case my chocolate thing does take off, I want to know, are they going to sue me for my, well, what do I have? I have like a cell phone and a truck. Basically, that's all I have.
And I think that's all. Your structuring is important.
Yeah.
And it's definitely, there are different ways to inexpensively structure your business so that you're mitigating risk. Insurances and a lot of those type of liability insurances are usually relatively cheap. So they're also a good idea, but they're very simple ways to structure and protect your assets so that they're not exposed.
Yeah.
I see. That
are pretty cost effective, very inexpensive. Mostly involving trusts and whatnot. Consult an attorney or an estate planning attorney. I'm not an attorney.
My dad was saying that if there's no insurance, no attorney would take the case anyway. So just don't, don't get the insurance. I don't think I have any other questions for you guys. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we go?
Anything you're thinking about, Matt?
I would say that it's just, I think we're in a very special time right now that makes it so easy to do what we are doing and to, you know, to be able to give our audience incredibly awesome, healthy products. You know, that's like one of the biggest things. And I don't know any other YouTube channel. Most YouTube channels have their merch, or they might have different sponsorships with other, you know, healthy food distributors and stuff like that. But they don't produce their own product and things like that. And I think it's just incredible. And I think they're missing out.
Well, and I think what's really neat is the antithesis of why we did this was that YouTube had maligned and shadow banned us exclusively for whatever
They still
reason,
are.
just by the, and so we said, well, because Matt decided, hey, I really want to do this. I want to do this as a business.
Yeah.
And so we sat down and said, okay, well, how do we monetize this?
Mm.
Like, if we're going to do it and put in the time and effort and buy all the infrastructure and buy the cameras and the audio and do all the, and then make the investment and convert this studio and this, like, how do we monetize this so that this is viable? And so that was literally what birthed the farm shop, which is really neat how you can even take your message on a censored platform, right? Even on a censored platform, you still monetize it. And what other creators need to think about is, you know, these other platforms, the biggest problem is monetization. And the reason everybody kind of has to, this is what you were talking about earlier, Allison, and everybody has to placate to the tubes is because, you know, views and all that stuff.
They're relying on the ad revenue.
Right, but if more creators would figure out their own way to monetize themselves, it gives them more freedom to make the switch or cut the strings or whatever. And we see that definitely as, you know, moving forward as a possibility, which was another reason why the boys set up the farm shop.
There was one other question. Why do self-employed people get taxed at a higher rate?
Well, self-employed people get taxed at a higher rate only if they're unintelligent. And if you have so we have a CPA. I have never paid a CPA more than $500 a year ever. And a CPA will save you hundreds of thousands of dollars, hundreds. And I'm not overstating it. And the one financial advice I give to everybody is you need to have a CPA. You need to have a good one. They're incredibly inexpensive. And as a self-employed person, if you're paying more than 10%, now we've never paid 10% net, right? In taxes, you know, your CPA doesn't know what they're doing. You know, the reason for all these loopholes and the reason for this insane tax code that nobody can understand is so that they, them, and those, and the district of criminals and all those guys, right? So that they can live net tax free with their NGOs and their, you know, well, a large majority of those tax loopholes and shelters can be taken advantage of by the self-employed person. And if you're not doing that, you are just love
throwing
to
money away.
Feed the beast.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we can still take advantage of all these trillions of loopholes in this disgusting tax code that we have.
Oh, man.
Okay, one final question. What about refrigerated trucks and whatnot? People are asking about, you know, mom and pop, you're buying over state lines, something like that, and it's perishable items. Is it more expensive if you're not sending like huge amount of bulk stuff, or are those available? Or are they too cost prohibitive? In other words, I guess, how do you make sure it's going to be fresh when it gets to your door if it's a perishable item?
Yeah, so right now we don't sell any perishable items.
Exactly. It's all dry.
Yeah, everything, even the food farce in the box, they're cuttings and they're out of season, so they'll make it. So we don't have any experience with perishable items because we don't. That is a whole new logistic, and that adds lots of variables that we're completely unfamiliar with.
I know a couple people that do that, and the thing is that they sell their own meat, and it's like a meat in a box, and it has all the different types of meats, and then they put some like dry ice in there and stuff like that. Part of me is like, oh, we should do that, but then the other part of me is like, man,
there's a lot of moving parts.
There's so many moving parts because you got to deal with spoilage, and then if it gets stuck somewhere, because like if a honey jar or a bag of native mud, you know, it's dry and the honey will last forever. You know, if it gets stuck in a warehouse, you know, a shipping warehouse or whatever, or gets left in a truck for way too long, it's not going to go bad, you know, and they can still get it even if it's late, you know, and it can get smashed around and it'll still arrive somewhat fine, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm at thetexasboys.com right now, which is where everybody can go shop your farm store. Final closing thoughts.
Well, there's going to be a lot more to the farm shop because my younger brother, Buddy. We just bought him a leather sewing machine, and we're going to be adding loads more leather products on there. Leather, not like sheaths for your holsters, gun holsters, all types of awesome leather stuff. So that will be the new thing. And I just wanted to say, if anybody goes over to thetexasboys.com and just checks it out, just thank you from the bottom of our hearts, because we put a lot of time into all the videos that we make and into the website, and we try to make it just a good place for people to go around and shop and have fun and things like that.
Yeah, and we want to thank Allison. Thanks for having us back
absolutely.
on. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh, my honor. And yes, you've got so much fun stuff on there, so people should definitely go check it out. The Texas Boys, okay, and they're on YouTube, but y'all are also trying to get sort of.
Yep, we're on Rumble.
We're on Rumble and steady on other platforms.
Yep.
Okay, yes, because
Did
you were
get kicked off YouTube?
No, I'm still on YouTube, but I mean, I'm limping along viewer wise.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Shadow ban.
It's so the money is so bad. It's like
it's
no, that's why I just started telling people. I'm like, we really literally almost don't make any money. Like
nothing.
A couple dollars here and there. So I'm like, if you want to support the show, go over to thetexasboys.com. We don't have any sponsors. That's it. So, you know, that's the only thing that's been able to keep our show on the road, you know?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on to talk about it again. And come back when I get my chocolate going.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go. Yeah, let's go.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. See you next time.
See you.
All right. See y'all. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.